finish up combinations, we're going to use the skills that we have learned, and we're going to find out why it is that some poker hands are better than other poker hands. So we're going to learn some basic skills for counting different poker hands. We're going to start with an example, and then we're going to use that example sort of to set up some guidelines of how we can count similar types of poker hands. So we're going to start with figuring out a very simple poker hand, which is one pair. Now, poker hands consist of 5 cards, and when we talk about one pair, an example would be getting a pair of 2s, and the other 3 cards are all different. So one example would be 2 2s, a 3, a 7, and a 9. Now, to count this, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about kinds of cards. Like, they're sort of like your numbers, but it also includes Jack, Queen, and King. So in a deck of cards, there's 13 different kinds, Ace through King. And when you're trying to count how many poker hands have one pair, the first thing you're going to decide is which card or which kind is going to be your pair. Are you going to have a pair of 2s? Are you going to have a pair of kings? Are you going to have a pair of 5s? So since there's 13 different kinds, you choose one of those kinds to be your pair. And if you happen to choose the 2s, there are 4 2s in your deck, and you need to choose which 2 2s are going to be your pair. So this whole thing combined will count a pair. You choose your kind first, and then which specific cards afterwards. Then we need 3 single cards, and there are 12 kinds left. We can't choose 2s again, because if you choose another 2, you won't have 2 of a kind anymore, you'll have 3 of a kind. So there's 12 kinds left, and you need to choose 3 of them. In this case, I chose a 3, a 7, and a 9. But then once you've chosen 3s, there are 4 3s. You need to choose which specific one you're going to have, which specific 7, and which specific 9. And all of this will count 3 single cards. Multiply it all together, and we'll find out how many poker hands have a pair. Now that we've done one example, I'm going to write out some guidelines that we did in this first one. And had I written out these guidelines at the beginning, I think they'd be harder to understand. So we're going to have to introduce some language. First guideline, I'll put number above that. Choose the kind of card, then the specific card. So what I mean by that is with the 13, choose 1. That chooses whether our pair is going to be a pair of 5s, a pair of 7s, a pair of aces, a pair of kings, all 13 different possibilities. That's choosing the kind of card. Then if you chose 2s, you need to tell me, well, which specific 2 2s are you choosing? 2 of hearts and 2 of clubs, 2 of hearts and 2 of diamonds. And since there's 4 2s, you choose which 2 specific ones. Sometimes people say you choose the kind of card and then the suit, but I find visually it helps me think about it if I think about after choosing 2s, I pull out all 4 2s and I choose which 2 2s I'm going to have. That's guideline number 1. Guideline number 2 choose kinds of the same size at the same time. So what does this mean? Well, if you have kinds, right? And in our example here, we have a 3, a 7, and a 9. And they're all single cards. And so those single cards have the same size because they're single cards. But the pair and a single card aren't the same size because one has 2 and one has 1. So you will choose kinds of the same size at the same time. And so I'm going to underline the same time here, and I'm going to underline the 12 choose 3 because that's where it happened in our question. In our example, we have 3 kinds that are the same size. We have a single 3, a single 7, and a single 9. And so what we need to do in that situation is choose those cards at the same time. And I'll show you why that happens. Another way that people, if you're going to make a mistake in this question, you say 13 choose 1, 4 choose 2, that chooses my pair. Then I want to choose my next card. I'll go 12 choose 1, 4 choose 1. That chooses a single card. Then I'll go 11 choose 1, 4 choose 1. That chooses another single card. Then I'll go 10 choose 1, 4 choose 1 to choose my last single card. And in this idea, this would be one single card, this is another single card, this is another single card. Where does this go wrong? Well, I could have chosen my 3, and then chosen a specific 7, then chosen a specific 9. But by doing it this way, I could have also chosen my 7 here, and then my 3 here, and then my 9. But those would be the same. In fact, when you choose the same size at different times, you create an overlap, just like we talked about this morning with that first example with the clubs, that being able to choose one club here and then choosing it again in a different spot causes you to count too much. So the way that we make sure that we don't count too much is this second guideline, right? If you have kinds of the same size, you choose them at the same time. So I'm just going to erase the red because it was wrong. And we'll go to a second example. Oh, and I need someone to calculate the value for one pair so we can get a sense. Out of the 2.6 million different poker hands, how many poker hands have one pair? So someone who has a calculator, if they could multiply that all out and type it in. And when you've got the answer, let me know, but we'll start now with 2 pairs. So an example of getting 2 pairs would be like getting 2 5s, 2 9s, and another number. Do we have any kinds of the same size? Yes. Our 5s and our 9s are both pairs. So they will have to be chosen at the same time. So I have 13 different kinds. I'm going to choose 2 of them to be my 2 pairs. Choosing 5s, there's 4 5s in the deck. I need to choose 2 of them. There's 4 9s in the deck. I need to choose 2 of them. This all together will count 2 pairs. We've got an answer for the first one? So out of the 2.6 million, 1 million hands have a pair. So getting a pair is quite common because there's that many hands that have a pair. All right, so continuing with our 2 pairs. We've chosen our two pairs. Now we have to choose our single card. There are 11 kinds left because we've used up 2 of them. We need to choose one. And if you chose your 6, there would be 4 6s. You need to choose which specific 6 you're picking. This will count your single card. You may notice, and it wouldn't be wrong in this case, to say, well, if I'm choosing a single card, after taking out all the 5s and all the 9s, all 8 of those cards, because I can't choose those again, there's 44 cards left. And I just need to choose one of them. But if you like to follow the guidelines, you can do the kind first and then the specific card. That works perfectly fine. Again, once you have a chance, type these values in, and we're going to see how much better is 2 pairs compared to 1 pair. How much less likely is it? Now, something that's not intuitive is, why is 3 of a kind better than 2 pairs? And so now when we do the math, if we do 3 of a kind next, and an example of 3 of a kind would be 3 of one kind and 2 different single cards. We've got the answer for the one before. Yes, how many?
123,500.
So there's significantly less 2 pairs than 1 pair. 3 of a kind. Do we have kinds of the same size? Yes, we have 2 single cards, so those will have to be chosen at the same time. To start with our 3 of a kind, we have 13 cards. We choose one of them. And then if you chose queens, there's 4 queens. Choose 3 of them. That will choose our 3 of a kind. Our 2 single cards need to be chosen at the same time. 4 choose 1 for the 5s, 4 choose 1 for the 8s. And we get all of the hands with 3 of a kind. And when we calculate that out, we're going to find out that it's less than 2 pairs, and that explains why that's a better hand in poker. Again, once you've got that calculation, if you want to let me know. The next one that we're going to look at something in poker that's called a full house. A full house has 3 of one kind and 2 of another kind. In this one, it's actually pretty easy because we don't have any kinds of the same size. So we just have to follow our first guideline. We have to pick what's going to be our 3 of a kind. There's 13 different kinds. You choose one of them to be our 3 of a kind. And then if you chose 5s, there's 4 5s. You choose which 3 you're going to use. That's your 3 of a kind. Got the number for the last one? Okay, go ahead.
54,912.
So getting 2 of a kind, or 2 pairs, sorry, getting 2 pairs is twice as likely as 3 of a kind. But both of them are significantly better than just a single pair. Our full house, so we have 3 of a kind here, and now We need to do our 2 of a kind. There's 12 cards left. Choose the kind. If you chose 9, there's 4 nines. Choose which 2. That will be our 2 of a kind. And the last one that we're going to look at is 4 of a kind. Four sevens and a 2. Again, we don't have any kinds of the same size, so 13 kinds, choose 1 for your 4 of a kinds. If you chose 7, there's four sevens, you need to choose all 4 of them. And then in choosing your single card, there's 12 kinds left. Choose 1 of them. If you chose 2s, there's 4 choose 1 of them. And that will calculate your single card. Here, I'll figure out the last one here. 624. Anyone calculated the full house? Yes. So comparatively, if we look at the full house numbers compared to the 3 of a kind, that's significantly better. There's way fewer full houses than there are 3 of a kinds. And when we get to 4 of a kind, that's really rare. I mean, if you look at the best hands, which are your royal flushes, there's only 1 royal flush in hearts, 1 royal flush in diamonds, 1 in clubs, 1 in spades. There's 4 in total. That's why it's the best hand. There's only 4 out of the 2.6 million poker hands that are there that are full houses. But 4 of a kind is extremely good. Full houses are amazing. And so this combination stuff allows us to count how many hands have that. If you want to figure out probabilities, you could take 624 and divide it by that 2.6 million to find out what are your chances of being dealt that in 5 cards. And it gives us a sense why it is, from a numerical perspective, why the order of the different hands are that way.